After listening to so many wonderful stories the whole morning, I also developed a new story for my research. If we say that the previous stories are the beautiful gems or pearls, then our story is really a very humble thread that trying to connect every pieces together. But I will leave Professor Stephen Tang a bigger job to do in the afternoon, which is to use our thread to connect all the pearls to create a jewelry that could be showcased to the world, to not only enjoyed by Hong Kong people, but also people around the whole region and the world. Indeed, our project is really about connectivity, collaboration, and coordination. And I fully agree with Dan Dan's last remark, which is we need a lot of planning and coordination when we do rural revitalization, instead of looking at individual cases. But of course, individual cases with a lot of in-depth investigation and investment and restoration are definitely necessary. But I think the function of the thread is very important too, which is to provide coordination and connection, etc. So first of all, I think the previous talk really saved my time in explaining this new concept, but I would also like to highlight that this is the renewed understanding of the rural really is the theoretical foundation of the entire work of rural revitalization, and also all the efforts that everybody in the room is putting into, which is trying to escape from this very old-fashioned traditional view of rural-urban dichotomy or binary view of the rural-urban, which consider the rural as an inferior form of human habitat. But in this project, we're trying to promote a new understanding of the rural as a development path alternative to the cities, to the urban, by embodying a more harmonious human-nature relation. And also, in order to achieve all our goals for rural revitalization or conservation, we really need to develop a better understanding of the ever-evolving, ever-changing, and multifaceted rurality. And also, that holds the potential to unleash the rural-specific potentials of our villages. So, it was based on this understanding, our team also trying to look for inspiration from our conventional traditional wisdom, which inspire us the most is really this concept of Yeuk or alliance, village alliance. Many of you probably know that this Yeuk system is actually self-organization emerged since Song Dynasty, and it has become a governing basis, governing system, as well as a social norm, which emphasizing mutual help and reciprocities. So in our research case, which is the Yanzhou Tong 9 villages, historically there is a Heng Chun Yeuk, that comprise 7 villages. But of course, we also include the other 2, Feng Hang and Gokbo, because historically they have formed a very close link in terms of trading, social bonding, and so on and so forth, because they are all coming from a common background, which is the Hakka culture. I myself is also a Hakka, according to my father, but unfortunately I don't speak Hakka, so please bear with me. But this is really a wonderful concept to understand how the Hakka people are selecting the habitat, which already demonstrated by Vinny earlier, that they pay a lot of attention in feng shui and also the human nature, harmonious correlation, and so on and so forth. So not only individual Hakka villages are very cautious in terms of choosing the location for the habitat, but they also emphasize a lot in interconnecting across different villages. And this is also a very fundamental strategy to really consolidate the small villages and also fight against some potential external threats, because Hakka literally meaning guest families, right? They are moving to a new location because of war, because of political struggles, and so on and so forth. So when they arrive at a new places, they really need to form a lot of alliance external to the villages. So this is basically where the concept of Yeuk coming from. So this really inspired us a lot. So the vision of our project is really to revitalize the traditional wisdom of Yeuk among these 9 villages. I know it's definitely not easy, but this is also our vision that proposed to the whole 9 villages, and many of them are here. Actually, the village representatives are here, and also I presented this idea to all of them, and most of them actually totally agree with us. But we also try to introduce some modern elements into this conventional or traditional concept of Yeuk by bringing some modern technologies and also modern management governance mode to really connect these 9 villages together to achieve a bigger goal. So at the foundation of this modern Yeuk concept, we emphasize a lot on the social organization based on the concept or the theory of polycentric governance framework that many of you may already familiar with. And building on that social organization, we can achieve different goals, starting from restoring the physical space, cultural and environmental preservation, and then we can also, we can also introduce a diversity of economic activities from agriculture to ecotourism, green economy that many of the previous presenters already demonstrate very well, which I don't really need to repeat. And we also emphasize a lot on cultural inheritance and social bonding, and this is exactly what the Yeuk concept is really about. And finally, we would also like to enable the 9 villages to achieve renewed Hakka cultural traditions and building on harmonious human-nature relation. So just briefly talk about the concept polycentric governance itself. This is a theory that developed by the Nobel laureate Professor Ostrom and based on her work in Indonesian villages. So we were thinking that we hopefully we can also replicate this very successful governance concept in the Hong Kong context, but of course we need to adapt to the local Hakka culture and also the institutional framework of Hong Kong. But basically this idea is really considered as the best solution to coordinate the conflicting, competing interest groups and stakeholders, but providing some potential solutions for cooperation, coordination, while addressing the different needs of individual stakeholders. So that is the basic concept of polycentric governance, and I think this is exactly what we need in uniting the 9 villages in the Yanzhaotong area. So building on that theory, we also come up with this modern Yeuk vision that with short-term, mid-term, and long-term goals. In the interest of time, I'm not going through all the different targets at different periods, but I do bring a few copies of our concept plan, and please feel free to take one from our assistants. And apart from this concept plan, we also have action plan. We also create case studies, collecting all the cases from many places, more than 15 cases around the world in different continents. So if you're interested, please feel free to download from our website, which I will provide a link to you at the end. And just to very briefly go through the 5 major goals proposed by the team under the overarching framework of modern Yeuk, that we can start from the first goal, which to build the Yanzhaotong area into an exemplary model for the modern Yeuk that governed by a regional coordination hub. The The regional coordination hub is very important because the principle for this polycentric governance framework is really to allow the competition among the different interest groups or stakeholders, but still we try to find a common ground for collaboration and coordination. So we need to absorb different opinions and also have the representative from different stakeholders in order to achieve a common goal. So this is what the idea is coming from, Regional Coordination Hub. So the idea is to designate a rural revitalization action plan. In our case, is the entire Yanzhaotuang area comprising 9 villages. And based on this idea, we can attract not only the indigenous villages and bring in the investment from the government, and also we would hope to attract some private sector investment as well in order to invigorate the rural revitalization and also create a platform for deeper participation of individual actors and different stakeholders. Let me give you a very simple example of how this regional coordination hub can help with different activities that we propose in this plan. For example, if ecotourism is definitely a huge thing that we're trying to promote in this region. But in the past, each individual villages will only focus on their own business, and we know that different villages actually have, in different locations, they are facing different opportunities. For example, in Laichiwo, they are very well established with a lot of input from different stakeholders. But for other remote villages, say Samga or even Gokpo, although it becomes a very famous village now, but they still do not have the water baths, right? So they are really looking forward to the government or whatever investment can create a better accessibility and connectivity to the villages. So based on this regional coordination hub ideas, we can really better coordinate the ecotourism development that can benefit all the 9 villages rather than skewing towards certain villages in a better location. So I'm not going through all the details, but just to highlight a few things. For instance, we suggest that we should develop some institutions, new institutions that can enable benefit sharing mechanism so all the villages can benefit from the investment in certain particular location rather than fighting to grab the limited resources. But if we can create a sharing mechanism, all the villages can benefit, they are all willing to put in their share and in order to make bigger businesses. And we also trying to, I fully agree with all the previous speakers, Jackie, Vinny, Dandan, and so on, that we should put in a lot of effort in capacity building. So we should develop different institutions and also introduce some the state-of-art technology. For example, we propose that we can develop a carry capacity tours because at the very beginning, Jackie also said that we need to really balance development and conservation. So how to achieve this delicate balance, we need to have real-time monitoring. For example, we don't want to see that too many tourists are thrown into the small villages and creating pollution and noises and disturbance to the village's life and so on and so forth. So we need to have a tool really to provide a real-time monitoring for the tourist flows. If there are too many tourists, we can the ferry can already immediately know that we already reached this capacity limit. So all the water buses will stop receiving transporting the guests to these villages. So this is just a small example that to demonstrate that how we can introduce modern technology and new governance institution to enable more coordinated and also benefit sharing system among the 9 villages in this region. And our second goal is to design Yanzhaotuang into a world-class agrarian landscape that building on an agro-ecosystem approach. I remember Jackie or someone else, maybe Winnie, already talked about a very similar concept. And this concept is actually from the UN Food and Agriculture Organization. This agro-ecosystem approach has three major elements, which are human, agricultural production, and also the nature. So they are not necessarily contradictory, right? They can harmoniously coexisting. So this is all this idea is about. So basically, based on this idea, we can introduce a holistic, integrated approach that can applies ecological, social concepts and principles to enable a more integrated and balanced development among the three elements. So in the interest of time, I will quickly go through the rest of the slides because we are only arrived at the second goal, but the other goals are very important too. So I do want to spend a little bit more time on the other two goals. And the goal number 3 is to redefine Yanzhaotong area by introducing a village circular economy that with a strong reciprocal relation and also supporting indigenous entrepreneurs. Indigenous entrepreneurs are not only referring to the local villages, but also the so-called new villages, Sanchunman, who are the urban residents who are really passionate about countryside conservation and also enjoy the life in the rural area. So this is the ideas that we try to bring in this area that will diversify the economic activities that not only focusing on agricultural activities, but also that can bring in other economic activities as well. As one of the speakers already demonstrated, there are a lot of potential that to develop upscale primary products in this area by engaging in organic farming and also introducing the ideas of farm to table that are currently very popular among our urban citizens. And our 4th goal is to encouraging multi-generation living community as well. So if you visit many villages in Hong Kong, you will find many of them are actually empty and vacant. So our goal is really to bring vitality and bring back the villages, not only those who are living in Hong Kong, but also those already migrated to overseas by the first stop will be renovating the homes. So many villages actually, they really wish that they could have a rural home back in their home villages, but the dilapidating and also collapsing houses are really pushing them away. So the first step to bring back vitality to the village is really to renovate the houses that the Hong Kong Countryside Foundation has done a lot of work in Lai Chi Wo, and they are opening the guest houses last year already. So, but as you know, that the cost is huge. That Mr. Lim could tell us how costly to rebuild and renovate one Hakka guest house. So I think what we can do is really to develop a low-cost model for housing resumption, to also to provide training for the villages to enable them to engage in this self-help renovation, make use of the locally available affordable materials to enable them to renovate their own houses and bring back the next generation villages. And also, apart from the physical activities, we can also take advantage of the latest technology to build physical and virtual platform for the overseas villages to participate in real time with the people who are gathering in the physical space of the village. So finally, we hope that based on the previous effort, we can eventually rebuild the Hakka culture inheritance in this area, and that will be defined by the village, vibrant village culture and empowered by new technologies. So One ideas I like very much that created by our team is to promote this so-called place-based five senses landscaping that you can enable a fully immersive experience for the visitors to engage in, to enjoy the village life. Okay, so my time is up. Let me just quickly show you that we do have a dedicated website for this project. That feel free to visit the website, and all the materials are available for download, and you can also get a hard copy from us. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Professor He, for the insightful sharing.